The program is rigorous, but it's not unattainable. The idea is to make a hurdle so that you prove that you're doing what it takes to be certified sustainable.
Unless you're a very small operation where you're doing everything from, making the wine to selling the wine, probably there's not one person in your company that's going to know all the answers. So what I did is I got all my departments on board. I got sales and marketing on board. I got tasting room on board. Got the human resources people on board and production, and just started delegating because I knew I didn't know all the answers. I knew other people did. The fastest way to do it and to get the best answers was to just divide it up and say, okay, you guys are in charge of these things. I'll take care of this other stuff, and we got through it.
It's really, really important to read your standards and know what your target goal is. If you know what you're working towards, you're going to have a better time achieving that goal. Write down questions, making notes of what type of documentation you actually need at different times of the year. There are only certain times of the year that you're typically applying compost. There are certain times of the year that you're putting a cover crop seed out, and you need to have a picture of the label of the cover crop seed to prove that it was cleaned and doesn't have invasive weeds. So if you make a list, and Zeb just made a list, it's 5 or 6 pages long, and next to each thing, he has a square for a document, a little picture of a camera for a photo.
The first thing I did was to review the requirements, because if you can't meet the requirements, then you're kind of stuck in the water. So the things I asked were, is it realistic for our operation to meet all the requirements? Can we do it? So I went through each of the requirements and just said yes or no, can we meet these? And maybe it's something that you can't do right now, maybe it's something you want to work towards in the future, but at least if you can review them and kind of see where you stand, that gives a good starting point. And then, of course, documentation is the key, because what I found is we were doing a lot of the practices, we were meeting a lot of things, but we didn't have the documentation in place. So that was really what it came down to with getting certified. And then the management enhancements, there's a lot of them. I say go for the easiest stuff first, because you only need half of the points. So with me, I'm kind of the kind of person that wants to get all the points, but I realized I didn't need to get all of them, so went for the easiest stuff first. I kept a tally of how many points I was getting, so I knew where I could reasonably stop, and then just keep in mind that you need 50% of those.
Next is record keeping, and this is a big one. For me, I actually have hard copies. I have folders with each of the ranches, and then I also have files on my computer, and I break it down by the chapter. I've found that this is really helpful, because the managers will come and they will give me samples, results, reports, budgets, and if I don't have somewhere to put it, then it'll get lost. So I like to keep it in folders, and then I also try to scan it to myself and then save it in a specific chapter where it needs to be for SIP. So I will sometimes upload it right away, sometimes I don't have time, so if I have it in that chapter, it's good to know that I can go in there and find it. If it's not in there, then I don't have it and I need to work on that. So the last one is communication, and this one is huge for me, dealing with multiple managers, multiple ranches in different areas. The first one is meetings. I like to have a meeting, like I said, with going over just the maps alone. That can take some time, especially when there's managers that have multiple ranches that are certified. Sitting down and going through those really helps, and it really helps for me just to be able to get with the manager and going over the tasks. So some managers now, I do a good portion of it. Still, there is some that have their assistant or supervisor out on the ranch that is involved. So it's helpful to have them come in as well and also go over tasks and who's doing what, so that you don't do any duplicate work. Nobody wants to be doing something that somebody else is already doing. It's kind of a waste of time. And then Vineyard knowledge and updates. For somebody who is in the office a good portion, like myself, it is good to kind of keep updated and know what's going on in the different projects that are going on out there. So, and Vineyard tours actually is a huge thing that I've just started doing, and I just go out there, meet with the manager, and you just drive through the ranch and kind of get an idea of things that may be changing, or even just seeing where wells are or owl boxes. It's really good to just get your assistant or whoever, if you have somebody inside working on it, get them out there to see the ranch and to kind of get an idea of what's going on. And then monthly updates is also a good one. I know that's kind of hard to actually get together every single month to go through it, but if you can, that really helps just to kind of stay in the loop of what's going on out there. And then reminders, this is a good one. Set reminders on your phone, emails. I've tried to send out like mass emails to all of our managers to kind of keep them going on the process and just help remind them of certain things. And if they need to do sampling this year, to kind of try to schedule that and plan some time, because if you have to bring a third party in, it could take some time, and then you have to get those results. So, so that is a big one too that we like to I like to do to kind of keep the managers going and just kind of remind them of that.
Another thing about your auditor is they typically will get really busy right at the end of the season. Everybody is waiting till the last minute. Now, if you can jump ahead and go a month early or a couple weeks early with your auditor, you go through your documentation, and what I found is she'll ask for more documentation on certain things, or my documentation type wasn't correct for something. I have that 2 weeks or a month to come back and get the correct documentation. So it really, really helps if you can schedule early.
Lastly, there's some certification tips that are helpful. Give yourself and your team plenty of time on the certification, because it ends up taking more time than you'll think. And some notice, give even your ranch people some notice of when the audit might be. Keep your team informed on vineyard changes and updates. Just keeping them in the loop is very helpful. Do an internal audit prior to the actual audit. So sitting down and going through with your team or with your assistant, that will really help you to catch anything you may have missed, and to really go over what you think the auditor is going to want to see on the ranch, and make sure that that's all set to go for the audit. And lastly, stay connected with the vineyard team. It really does help. The emails that Beth sends out, these seminars, they're really helpful. And Beth is really helpful too with any questions. She's always been there, and she responds right away. So that is really helpful also.
And then look to other growers who are certified and ask them what you're doing, what practices, or how do you document things. I've helped growers in the past who wanted to become SIP certified, and they just wanted me to review their documents before to see how the audit was going to go. And it's no problem. The idea is to help each other become more sustainable. And as a community, if we're all sustainable, we all rise up together.